Brett, what a crazy year you are having. You're racking up all kinds of awards. What does that mean for you, all this recognition?
Candy, it's pretty crazy to hear you say these things and to kind of recite them back. It's hard to believe that this has been the last year of my life, or what has, I think, transpired in the last 10 years, since releasing my first record back home in Glendon, Alberta, if you can believe it. So it's pretty crazy. And a lot of moments, I think, are like pinch me moments. It's pretty special.
It's wild because you're saying like 10 years ago, and I just said you were 13.
Yeah.
It's like you've lived an entire lifetime and you're not even 25 yet.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, this trajectory that I've been on, but I believe in luck and hard work. A lot of that, growing up on a cattle ranch, as you mentioned, I'm very proud of my roots, and a lot of my family have worked very, very hard to get to where they are in their respective businesses or careers. But then there's a lot of luck that comes in, and in this business, I know you've been in show business for many years, so sometimes you just got to be lucky, and I think I've been very lucky.
I like how Oprah describes luck. She says luck is being prepared when opportunity comes along.
Hey, that's a good point. Yeah. I mean, well, between you and me, there have been a lot of cool things that have come up in my career that maybe I was lucky to get, but at least I didn't screw them up,
Right,
or at least not yet. There'll probably be some screw ups in my career coming up, but so far we've been pretty good.
Well, I'm sure you can blame some of the screw-ups on sleepless nights, because along with everything else that's going on, you became a daddy.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, how has that been?
It's so special, Candy. There's nothing that compares to having a kid. And our daughter, Mila, my wife, and I are just so proud of her. She's such a good baby and such a great traveler. If we could collect Air Canada travel points on this little girl, she'd probably be at 100K already, because I swear we've been around the world with her, and she's only 8 months old, and she is such a beautiful little girl.
That's amazing that you get to take her with you. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, people that were on the road had to leave the family at home.
Cecilia, my wife, and I, we talk a lot about the days of Johnny Cash and June Carter, and how they made those relationships work back then, but how hard that must have been in previous generations of music and show business. And we're very lucky that we get to travel together. We know that in the entertainment community, a lot of people and a lot of relationships may not work because of the time spent apart.
Yeah.
So we tried our very best from the very beginning to say, well, let's spend as much time together as we can. So it gets definitely more expensive, but it's worth it. And we're very proud that we get to spend that time together.
Nice. Now, has being a dad changed your musical inspiration at all?
Absolutely. Cecilia, she says that she kind of coined a phrase that she feels that since becoming a parent, she's noticed that I work harder but smarter, so that if I'm going to be gone, I better make the most of it. For example, being here in Toronto, hanging out with you, we'll do as much as we possibly can, especially if I'm going to be away from home. And then I've got someone to really look after. Now we've got,
nice.
The family's growing. So we're very, very proud that I get to do this and make a living doing this.
Now, how often are you able to get the little one back to Alberta to see where Daddy's from?
It's tough. And that's, I'll open up and I'll be honest, it's a regret of mine that, I'm very proud of my roots in the cattle ranch, but Mila has not had an opportunity really to spend much time on the farm, given our busy schedule. But Thanksgiving's coming up. We're going to go home to visit my Mima and my Grandpa Bear and stuff like that, spend a couple days out there. And I think it's going to be really nice. She is yet, get this, to meet a cow. Can you believe it? I grew up on a ranch, so I'm pretty excited to get some pictures with her and the farm animals.
Going to be fun to meet a cow. Going to be even more fun to have a nice old steak out there.
I think so, yeah. We've got some fresh ones for Thanksgiving. That's kind of our typical family meal. We'll have a big old steak dinner.
Beautiful. Now, your daughter is a little too young to pick up a guitar, but you weren't that much older than she is now when you started. How did you get that head start?
I don't really know why or how it came to be, Candy. For me, I think it came from my parents and especially my grandparents. See, my grandmother, we call her Mima, she said that she saw music in me when I was really little, and that's why she got me a guitar from the Sears catalog.
Oh.
And from that Christmas wish book, and I see it, Candy, every year, that same guitar is in the Sears Christmas wish book, but it goes down in value like every year. It started at $119.99. Now I think it's worth like $19. Wow. You can get that same guitar. And my Mima did the right thing for not investing in this $300, $400, $500 guitar because who knows if I was gonna like it. But
Or be as amazing at it as you are. I mean, my dad got me a Como guitar. He traded some motorcycle work so
yeah.
I could have it, and that was when I was 10. I'm 47. I still can't play it.
Now, but do you still have that
Yes.
guitar? That's very special. That's a great thing I think to keep, for a keepsake.
Yeah, absolutely, because it goes all the way back.
Yeah,
right,
it
to
really
your-
does.
And growing up on a ranch, everybody knows in North America in general that farming life is not easy. People are getting out of it. Was there pressure on you to maybe turn your back on the music and stay in the family biz?
There's been two pressures that I think have been put on me, prior to me really making the decision to play music. The first one was actually not about the farm; it was about going to post-secondary. Being that both my parents were school teachers, while also maintaining the farm with my grandparents. My mom especially wanted me to go to university. It didn't help that my brother went on, to university and become that suit and tie wearing guy and put the pressure on me to follow in his footsteps. But the other pressure came on me now that I'm older and now that I'm making a career and I see my parents' age and my grandparents' age. It's just the circle of life. There's that thing inside of you that burns to get back to the land and to get back to the farm. I don't know how or when I'm going to do it, but I know that it's important for me to get back there one day and, perhaps take over and, for the next generation.
Wow, beautiful. Your neighbors will be pretty pumped out there. What? He's living back next to us?
We're going to have some parties, let me tell you.
Oh,
There's
my
nothing like a
goodness.
you're a small town girl.
Yeah.
And we know there's nothing like a small town party in the shop or, around
bet.
the four-wheelers. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, man. I hope I get my invite when you go back.
100%. Please come pay us a visit.
Now, you started putting out records when you were just 13. Most of us at 13 were figuring out how to use Clearasil to clear up our acne. What was the biggest lesson that you still carry that you learned when you started so young?
It's hard to look back, even though it wasn't that long ago, because I think I was just doing it. I wasn't thinking about it. So recording a record and putting music together was just something I wanted to do. If there's anything that I remember, it's that hard work pays off, and to never, I think to never pass up an opportunity. I didn't know what was going to come up in my career after I did this gig, or that gig would lead to that gig, or that gig would lead to a bigger gig. I'm just glad I didn't say no, and I did everything.
Yeah. So true. The famous saying that 95% of life is just showing up.
I agree with
Sure
you.
you're there. And now you've shown up in the heart of country music. You're living in Nashville.
That's right.
What kind of an impact has that had on your craft?
I think living in Nashville has been so special because it's such a creative community where there are so many people just like me trying to make it in the music business. So some of, if not the very best writers, songwriters in country music are or in the world are right there in Nashville. The best studios, the best producers and stuff. So spending time in Nashville and in America has been great for my career. But I will say that I've been very proud to still do a lot of my recording here in Canada and still do a lot of work because, I'm very proud of my Canadian roots.
Do you feel any pressure being there to constantly be raising your game because you're in Nashville?
All the time. And I think that you in your background in comedy and stuff like that would know that there are hot pockets for your industry as there are for my industry. And that hot pocket for me is for sure Nashville. And I've got this fire lit under me constantly every time I get back into Nashville because I feel that I might be a pretty good songwriter. And then I'll meet someone who is so poetic and just says everything better than I would ever say it. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I got to up my game.
That's kind of cool, though. That'll keep you fresh and hot.
It's good.
Country music, it's always been sort of, it has a big legacy of those hurting songs.
Of course.
Those heartbreak songs. What do you hope to bring to that tradition?
Well, I would just love telling stories. And country music, in my opinion, is the last genre I think that still tells a good story. And with that, there's a song that I'm awfully proud of called I Didn't Fall in Love with Your Hair. And that's not your typical hurtin' song, but it's definitely a tearjerker. When I went into the studio to record that, it was very tough, I think, to get a full vocal take simply because the song and the content about my mom and her battle with cancer, and so many Canadians that I've met that have and families who have been through that. It's been very important to tell their stories, and that's why I'm proud of that song.
What is it like for you now that we know that that's about your mom? What is it like for you when you're trying to perform that live?
I think a lot about my mom, but I think mostly about my dad. And the lyric and the story talks from the guy's perspective. Me being a young husband now, but watching my dad go through that and try to keep the family normal and try to say the right things to my mom. You know, I didn't fall in love with your hair as she was going through cancer, was very special. So I think about him a lot. And when I'm performing that song, it's tough to get through. I played it on the Canadian Country Music Awards, and I made the mistake of trying to find my dad in the crowd, and I did, and he lifted up his glasses and he was wiping his eyes, and it was,
Oh no.
that was kind of the, call it the cherry on top or the nail in the coffin, whatever the saying is, because
Yeah.
that's when I really broke down, and but that's the power of music, and that's the power of country music and telling a story, and so I'm awfully proud of that song and what it does for our family, and I think for families across Canada.
Absolutely. If you're just joining, I'm Candy Palmater. You're listening to Q, and I'm speaking with country singer Brett Kissel. This whole idea of country music and the hat, I want to take a little detour for a second because you came in here with this big, beautiful box. Tell me
Yeah.
about the hat and the box that it goes in. And
Well,
we'll put pictures online so the listener can see.
I'm awfully proud to grow up and on the ranch and wearing this cowboy hat. I think has brought me a lot of luck, and so I've worn it since I was 12 years old. And this hat, it's crazy. It's been through a lot, and it's been kicked in the dust and stuff like that. And I keep a lot of memorabilia on the inside of my hat band. Now I've since taken it out because I keep collecting, but it's all in my box. Where this is my hat case that travels with me everywhere I go, but I've got ticket stubs from when I got a chance to play the Grand Ole Opry for my first time, or got to open for Garth Brooks, or the very first ticket my wife had when she came to watch me when we weren't even dating. I just invited her to a show hoping that I could, impress her.
Yeah.
You fast forward a bunch of times. It's really, really cool. There's a lot of great memories associated with my cowboy hat.
How did you meet her that you came to invite her to a show?
Well, I've loved her ever. It was truly love at first sight for me. I believe in that stuff for sure. And she had come to one of my concerts back home in our respective home area, Bonnyville, Alberta, and she came to this fundraiser we were doing for the rodeo, and it was really, really great. She was in there, and it was like time stopped. I couldn't believe I've never seen anybody that good looking with my own two eyes ever. And so over time, we got to know each other, and through social media, Facebook was the big thing. That's where we were connecting before I really got her number.
Right.
I didn't tell her my age because she was 2 years older than I was, and I didn't want her to think that I wasn't that cool of a guy because I wasn't her age. And so we just became friends when she moved into Edmonton, where I was living at the time. I don't even know when we started dating, Candy, but we've just been best friends.
Beautiful. Now, your music, you're kind of known for these big, catchy tunes, Airwaves being one of them. But your videos have this crazy dark streak. 321 from your last record. You're beaten, you're kidnapped,
Yeah.
possibly burned alive. For Pick Me Up, you're considering jumping off of a building after your girlfriend dies in a car crash. What's the deal?
Yeah, well, I'm a pretty dramatic fella, and I think it's an opportunity when we're making videos to work with the director to do something that's different and take our viewers and our listeners on a different journey, or think about what the lyric is saying and then take it one step further, or in the case of those two videos, take it 2, 3, 4 steps further. 321 was directed by Sean Silva down in Nashville, and I'm awfully proud with how that video turned out. Then you fast forward, a year later to Pick Me Up, which was shot by one of my best buddies, Blake McWilliam, from Edmonton, and we did that here in Toronto. And that video, I think it just takes it. The lyric talks about heartbreak and a breakup between a couple, and we thought, what if we took it one step further, and it's not just a breakup, it's you lost that someone special, and so we try to invoke and bring out emotion, from the viewer,
Right.
and hopefully we were able to do that without going too crazy.
It's funny when you put out a new song, a video comes out, I see it, and then months later, a video comes out, I see it. But when I was getting ready for this interview, I sat down and watched all your videos. And something that really jumped out to me that I never see in other country videos, very diverse people in your videos. And that's not something you see. There were black faces and brown faces and same-sex couples. And when you watch them all strung together, I was like, wow, this is really unique. What inspired you to want to have such an inclusive experience?
I've never been asked that before, and I appreciate you noticing that. It has been a subtle effort that I've wanted to do, and I think my family, my wife Cecilia, is a big advocate for my career and supporter, and we often talk about reaching everyone. And I think that's what's so special about being Canadian, is that it's so multicultural, that to have as many peoples from different walks of life a part of our videos and a part of our stories is very important. And I'm awfully proud to have the very first same-sex couple and same-sex couple kiss on country music television. In our recent video, I Didn't Fall in Love with Your Hair, because love is love and a couple is a couple, and it doesn't matter where you're from. I think if you're going through cancer together, especially with this last video that we did, if you're a spouse or a significant other, it hurts you just the same. And that's why it was important to cast these people in our video.
It pulled me right in. I mean, as an Indigenous gay woman, I was so pulled into the video. I also love that it seems to be saying, hey, everybody, country music doesn't belong to white folks.
Yeah, and for years, let's be honest, it's been primarily in the southern United States where country music was born and bred. We know their history. And the biggest thing now, it's 2016, and it's time to, I think, get rid of all those stereotypes that is with my genre, because I grew up in a rural setting and even a very conservative family. But like I said, this is 2016, and I think it's an opportunity for all of us to just embrace the way that we live life and the way that Canadians live life in this day and age.
Well, good for you, because it makes me even more proud that you are Canadian.
Well, thank you for saying that.
I want to talk a little bit about the collaboration you did earlier this year. You wrote a song with Don Amiro, a Métis musician from Winnipeg, called Rebuild This Town. What inspired that partnership?
I have to give full credit to Don, who is an outstanding artist, but an even better individual. Don has opened my eyes to some of the work that he does. He's a philanthropist, and he makes sure that everything that he does in his music says something important. And he and I chatted at a very close mutual friend's house. Brett Wilson hosts a great party every year that Don and I were both performing at. And his idea was to lead the reconciliation between the two branches of Canadians. Me being a Caucasian cowboy and him being a very proud Indigenous artist. Yeah. And so the two of us sat down to write this song in Edmonton called Rebuild This Town, with hopes that it would do a lot of good for both communities, and I think inspire his community to know that we care, and we're sorry, and we want to do what's right moving forward.
Your wife refers to herself as a Latin diva,
yes,
which I love.
Oh yeah.
So you have a child who's mixed race. Do you ever think about what she is going to think of all this beautiful work that you're doing right now as she grows up?
I never put a thought to it. I think that Cecilia and I, we just want to be good people. We were raised to be good people, and Cecilia, I think with her background and her upbringing, there were a lot of struggles there without getting into it. And I see her as a pioneer woman in this day and age, starting a new cycle. And I think she has a real opportunity, as do I as a parent, to show the good sides of life to our daughter, not shelter her, I think, from the world, because there's a lot of difficulties that happen around us, but for our daughter to grow up, and our future kids, if we're lucky to have more, to know that it's important to do good, and it's important to, maybe the cycle ends with you. It doesn't matter what happened in your past. It's very important to look towards your future. And I'm inspired by my wife on a daily basis because of that.
That's a beautiful thought. In the minute or so we have left, I just want to talk really quickly. You're planning to do a tour of some Indigenous communities.
Yes.
What inspired that, and where are you going?
Well, Dawn and I need to figure out exactly where we're going to go. And the reality is that I think we really need to sit down and collaborate about what communities need music the most. And so when we figure that out, to be honest, I think you'd be the first to know, because we'd love to have your support on the upcoming tour that we do, perhaps, in the spring or in the summer, when we head up to some of these communities that really need, I think really need some good news.
Beautiful. I will be there. I'll be in the front row.
That would be awesome.
Thank you so much.
No, my pleasure. And I would love to just quickly mention that I Didn't Fall in Love with Your Hair, all of the proceeds from that single, we give to the Canadian Cancer Society.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much.